Good morning. The people that served when I did, or has been, you get to listen to the later ones. We paved the way for them so that they wouldn't have it so hard to make progress. In fact, I went into the service when I was 18 years old, took my basic training down at Camp Shelby, Mississippi, which is Hattiesburg, trained about 6 months, and that was the most, I guess, the hardest work that I've done as in peacetime. But I took all my training seriously, and it paid off later on. But then after we got through with our basic, they sent us up to a place in Massachusetts to where we got our shots and our clothing. And you didn't know which side you were going to, the Pacific or the Atlantic, until the day before you was going to be shipped out. And if you got ODs, why, you was going to the Atlantic side. If you got khaki, you'd go into the Pacific. So fortunately, I guess, we got the ODs. Now, we boarded a ship in Boston, and it took us 14 days to cross the Atlantic to get to Liverpool. Here in June, we boarded a plane in Atlanta, and it took us 8 hours to fly to Munich, Germany. So transportation has changed tremendously. In fact, I'm glad that it has, because I can't stand the ocean. I get seasick. I was seasick 14 days when we were crossing the Atlantic. And 14 days, well, one day crossing the channel and 14 days coming back during the war. But after we got to England, we did all of our training down on the coast. We knew that we were going to be the ones that went into France for the invasion, but we didn't know where or when. But we knew it was getting close. They had places down on the beach that they called staging areas. And once they put your outfit in a staging area, the only way you got out of there, you were dead, because they wouldn't let you out under any circumstances. Now, we didn't have cell phones and things of that nature. We couldn't call home and talk to our parents and brothers and sisters like you could now. It took a email, or V-mail rather. The best you could do was 2 weeks getting it home and 2 weeks getting an answer, and that was very fast if you even got it to that period of time. So you didn't know very much about what was going on at home. In fact, it already happened and over with before you got any information about it. But after the training, we was still down on the coast, and I've told this story many times, but there was a company that was a National Guard outfit from Missouri, and they were all relatives in that company. And of course, we would always go out in the channel and train on coming back in for combat purposes. Well, about 3 weeks before D-Day, they were out in the evening and trying to do their exercise. A German PT boat got into the group of the LSTs out there and sank 3 of them at the cost of about 700 men. They were all cousins, brothers, fathers. And so they swore us to secrecy. We'd never talk about it. So really, I never thought about it until, I guess, 7, 8, 10 years ago. I was talking at one of the schools, and I happened to think about that. And I said, well, I'm going to tell it anyway. If they arrest me for it, at least they're going to have to feed me and clothe me. So that'd be one advantage. So I told the school about it. And when I got home on TV, while they was talking about the English, they had put a monument up on the beach there for those 700 men that were lost in those LSTs. Now, LSTs is landing ship tanks. They're large, flat-bottom boat. They don't travel very fast, but they'll haul a good load of tanks and personnel. And then when I picked up the paper, and the hometown of where all those men were around and from, they had having a memorial for them that particular day. So I got away with revealing a secret with the same day that they did. But after we got in our LST, we was heading across to France. We went in, it was a 546 ordnance. Now, actually, we were not combat people, but we all had the same training as infantry. And we went in behind the 4th Infantry on Utah Beach. And it's hard to describe. If you have seen the picture, I think the longest day comes the closest of describing what it was like on the beach landing. And we had waves, they called them waves, and I don't think that anybody really knows what wave they went in on, because it was like a big move. Once it got started, nothing stopped. Everything got pushed in. And us being ordnance, we were not supposed to even actually be in the battle. But the 4th Division did not make the advancement on the beach that they were supposed to or thought they would. I mean, they did the best they could with what they confronted with all the German artillery and everything. And so when we went in, we was right there with them. And we fought for our life just like the rest of them did. And it took us 6 weeks to get off the beach. I mean, going through the hedgerows, have you seen pictures of hedgerows in France? When we were there this time, they had pretty well cleaned all the hedgerows out and didn't recognize much of it. But while we were there in June this time for the 75th anniversary, there was a draw on the beach there of a swell like, but it was very small. But I found that this time while we were there, but it had enlarged tremendously over 75 years. But that's where I got most of my protection from when I got on the beach and we were trying to get into some place that we be effective in firing. But like I say, finally, we inch by inch took the beach. Hitler believed that the invasion was going to be up at Calais. Now, Patton had put up at the English side of Calais rubber tanks, trucks, artillery pieces, and they looked real. And they had some double agents too, and he had 2 crack SS divisions. If he had listened to his generals and turned those 2 divisions loose, we would have never held the beaches. They would have cleaned us up, because we couldn't get in the heavy artillery and as many tanks as we needed on the beach to take care of the situation. But we eventually got through the hedgerows, which was a major operation at its own to get on the other side. Then we began to move, and we were with Patton's 3rd Army. Now, Patton didn't know but one thing, that was to move. You didn't sleep, you didn't do anything but begin to move. He wasn't too, Patton was the best general tactician of all the generals, both sides, but he was a glory hunter also at the same talk. And he didn't care too much about a man's life as long as it got his point taken care of. And when we were moving along down around Reims, France, we were moving up one evening, and they had kitchens that was in advance of us where we could stop and eat our meal without having to set up all of our kitchen equipment and everything. And so they had German KPs working in the kitchen, and they had mashed potatoes, and that was the best thing they had. And I got me a good helping of mashed potatoes. Well, a couple hours later, I became definitely ill. And so I went to the first sergeant and told him, I said, I'm sick and I've got to get some help from my doctor. So we went back, we found a company doctor, and he says, I can't do anything for you, but he sent me back to something similar to a MASH outfit. If you've seen MASH on TV, that where they had the complete hospital set up. So the doctor just took something like an ear swab and run around in my mouth and came back and says, where'd you get this arsenic? I said, I don't know what you're talking about. He said, well, you've got a load of arsenic. He says, where did you eat last? And I remembered the number of all those kitchens had numbers. And I remembered the number of the kitchen, so he said, we'll take care of that. So I'm assuming they went back to the kitchen and there was, well, I don't know how many German KPs they had, but there's going to be that many less when they got back there to that particular kitchen. And we were moving up to Metz, France, and it was beginning to get real cold then, and beginning to snow. And Eisenhower wanted to take Metz, France without destroying it because it had a rail center, road center, and he wanted to use that for further transportation and helping the Americans with the war. So we lost my train of thought there for just a minute. That's what happens when you get old. But as we were going into Metz and the Germans stopped us, so Eisenhower called all three of his generals together and says, I want a plan to take Metz, but I don't want to destroy it. Well, our illustrious Patton, he gets up and he says, well, give me enough. 6x6 trucks are pretty good size Army trucks to haul the dog tags back in, and said, I'll put you through Metz. But Eisenhower didn't take his suggestion. And just about that time, the Battle of the Bulge was beginning to take shape. And the amount of people that Patton had, I think that he sent every outfit he had to the Battle of the Bulge once they got started. But on the way there, the Germans captured the 285th Artillery Observation Group. There was about 185 personnel in it. And they tied a bunch of them up with barbed wire at Malmaison, France, and shot them, killed them. And a few escaped. There was some that escaped and went, now why they went to a cafe, I don't know. But the Germans found them in there and they burnt the cafe down with them in there. Well, we went by Malmaison and I saw the place again where these GIs were all murdered in a snowfield there. But now they have put a museum up there. I didn't even get off the bus to go look. I'd seen enough. So the order came down at that point that you take no prisoners. And we didn't take any German prisoners for a month or so. But it got to the point to where that there was so many of them surrendering till we just didn't have enough ammunition to do the job. But when we were getting into Bastogne from Metz, we were at Metz and we were getting into Bastogne. And we had a tank with us. That was our protection. They gave us one tank. And that tank slipped off in a ditch because the roads had already frozen over, the ice, snow, and rain, sleet. And I had a picture of it, and we tried to find that road, but they had modernized the roads and everything so greatly over there until our place that we had traveled on might have been there, but we couldn't find it. Chris and a gentleman that was with our with our outfit there on this trip. He had a car, and we drove over an hour looking around. We went by one place, and Chris said, well, let me get out and knock on the door, see if they know anything about it. Somebody said, you don't speak French, how are you going to get any information? So we finally give up on trying to find the place where our tank had slipped off into the ditch. But we went on into a place where the part of the battle was fought, and Charles Henry and myself, we stood in because it's supposed to have been a foxhole, but the weather was so bad and so cold, you couldn't dig a hole. All you could do is just dig a sort of a trench and lay in it. But anyway, we stood in there, and they took some pictures of us in that so-called foxhole there. And also there was a museum, like they had Chris, what was that we stood at? You know, Charles and I had our picture made at this memorial, like there was a,
Charles Henry, who went with us to Belgium, he is an African-American World War II veteran who was told when he signed up and asked to be a paratrooper that they would not train him as a paratrooper because of the color of his skin. And they sent him to Wyoming, and he spent the war guarding POWs. And he'll be here in a little bit. And he has a wonderful attitude about it. He said the Lord knew what he was doing. And I saw a article where he had a quote that said he lived vicariously through his brothers who served overseas. So we decided, even though at Forever Young we only take veterans back to places where they served, that it was time Charles Henry went. So Charles Henry went with us on our trip, and one of the places that we took him to, I can't remember the name of the little village, but it was a memorial to about 11 African-American soldiers who had been brutally killed and because they were African-American. And so that was very touching for Charles Henry. I can't remember the name of it.
I can't either.
But it was in a neighborhood. While we were there and we were visiting that memorial, some people were out with their family walking around the neighborhood, and they just hugged all over Charles Henry because they had never seen an African American at that memorial. So that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, right. But we had a good trip after seeing the places that I had been 75 years ago, how they were destroyed, and the death and desecration that was there. You come back 75 years later, and it's so serene and calm until we could walk out on the beach. There was nobody shooting at you. The waters were calm. There was no ships out there with troops on them waiting to come in. And it was a very calming situation to see that you had accomplished something. A lot of the people came up to you and said, I thank you for saving our country. And even some of the Germans did the same thing, thanked us for saving their country. And the loss of life was tremendous. I always think that on the beach when we went in, they said there was 2,500 lost, but I'm sure that there were more than 2,500 on the beach. But this is history, and I don't think that will ever be changed because no one really knows the account. And it's like some of the people today are trying to change history for no good reason except to serve a purpose for their own. And I am grateful for the Forever Young group that allowed me to go back. Chris had to talk to me pretty long to get me to go back to the D-Day celebration, but I enjoyed it after everything was said and done. But I hope that none of the people here in the room, you young people, have to do and go through what there was 16.5 million of us called up, and everybody had a job to do. Even the family at home, they did their job, gathering up scrap iron and aluminum, anything to help the war effort. And it was a great help to know that your family at home was helping as well as you out on the battlefield. Now, I don't care if you was a clerk in an office somewhere, but it took that clerk to help protect and get you going, whatever your job was going to be in the field. And I hope that that we never have another confrontation like we had during that period of time. And there's only one thing that I can say. They called us heroes. I think a hero is one that has accepted Jesus Christ in their heart as their Savior. Then I know that they're a real hero. And War Eagle, Roll Tide, and God bless America.
So something that I want to say about Harold, you know, a lot of y'all don't know, but I was teaching here, 8th grade. Where's my 11th graders? So I was teaching this class right here, so they saw the whole thing. They were front and center. And the Lord got a hold of my heart and told me that there were people in Huntsville that needed this organization. And so I met Harold just shortly after that, and I said, hey, Harold.
8th Air Force.
Do what?
At the 8th Air Force meeting.
Yes, at one of the first places that I went. And I said, don't you want to go back? And he said, nope, I didn't leave anything over there. And then he teared up. So every time I talked to him about it afterwards, he teared up. So the Lord kind of told me that maybe he did need to go back. So it took 2.5 years for him to agree. And I just asked him, I said, will you pray about it? And he said, yes, he would pray about it. You know, the Lord did everything he could to keep him from going. He had a car wreck,
2 weeks before?
2 weeks before. Left his wife in rehab because she was in the car with him. But he was determined to go. And when we got back, he called me about 2 weeks later, and he said, I want you to know that my phone's ringing. He said, I want you to know that I have worried for 75 years about some of the things that I did over there. But after that trip, I'm not worried anymore. So this was a great big plan that God put into action to help Harold and some of the others. And so it's just a joy to be able to watch it. So thank you again, Harold.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a little bit of time, and I don't know if y'all know this. We have about 10 minutes.
I have 10 minutes.
Yeah, about 10 minutes to lead a song.
To do what?
Lead a song.
A song?
Yeah, your song. The one you always lead.
How many was here
2 years ago when I was here.
You were here last year, too.
Was I here last year too?
Yeah.
How many was here then too? Well, you all heard that one song, so I'm going to teach you another song. How would you like to hear that?
It's not She Went Into the Water, is it?
Yes, and I'm going to do it.
No.
So once I get started on this song, you can join me because it's repetitious.
It's also one, just keep in mind that it's got a clean ending, okay? Oh, he's 99 years old, he's earned the right to sing whatever song he wants.
Thank you. All right, I want you to sing with me and sing nice and loud so people in Huntsville can hear us. So it's all repetitious. So once I get started, you can follow through. She waded in the water and she got her feet all wet. She waded in the water and she got her feet all wet. She waded in the water and she got her feet all wet, but she didn't get her wet yet. Come on now, sing with me. Now sing with me. She waded in the water and she got her ankles wet. She waded in the water and she got her ankles wet. She waded in the water and she got her ankles wet, but she didn't get her wet yet. She waded in the water and she got her calves all wet. She waded in the water and she got her calves all wet. But she didn't get her wet yet. And real loud now. She waded in the water and she got her knees all wet. She waded in the water and she got her knees all wet. She waded in the water and she got her knees all wet, but she didn't get her wet yet. She waded in the water and she got her thighs all wet. She waded in the water and she got her thighs all wet. She waded in the water and she got her thighs all wet, but she didn't get her wet yet. She waded in the water and she finally got it wet. She waded in the water and she finally got it wet. She waded in the water and she finally got it wet. She finally got her bathing suit wet. Yeah.
All right, that might be the last year I'm ever allowed. This will be the last year we're ever allowed to come back. Do your other one. Do your other one. Do the one you usually do.
Now I've been requested to do my favorite song, and I think a lot of you know it. And I would like a girl and a boy to come up and stand here beside me and help go through the motions. Who can I have? Come on, that little girl way back there. And you do. All right, you all know the motions?
No. No.
You don't know the motions? Okay, are we ready? I forgot the song. Now, with my hand on my chest, I ask, what is this here? This is a hat racker, yeah, mom, my dear. Hat racker, yeah, mom, my dear. And that's what I learned in the school. Hey, hey! Now sing with me. We're going to work our way right on down. Next one's a sweat box. With my hand on my chest, I ask, what is this here? This is the sweat boxer, ya mom, my dear. Sweat boxer, hat racker, ya mom, my dear. And that's what I learned in the school. Little louder now, the next is eye blinker. With my hand on my chest, I ask, what is this here? This is an my dear. Eye blinker, sweat boxer, hat racker, ya mom, my dear. And that's what I learned in the school. Hey, hey, that was a little better. Now the next one's nose blower. So let me hear you a little louder. With my hand on my chest, as what is this here? This is a nose blower, ya mom, my dear. Nose blower, eye blinker, sweat boxer, hat racker, ya mom, my dear. And that's what I learned in the school. Hey, y'all good on the hey, heys, but let's get a little bit more with the rest of the verse. Next one's a soup strainer. With my hand on my chest, I ask, what is this here? This is a soup strainer, ya mom, my dear. Soup strainer, nose blower, eye blinker, sweat boxer, hat racker, ya mom, my dear. And that's what I learned in the school. Hey, hey! With my hand on my chest, I ask, what is this here? This is a food chopper, ya mom, my dear. Food chopper, soup strainer, nose blower, eye blinker, sweat boxer, hat racker, my dear. And that's what I learned in the school. Hey, hey, rubbernecker. With my hand on my chest, I ask, what is this here? This is a rubbernecker, ya mom, my dear. A rubbernecker, food chopper, soup strainer, nose blower, eye blinker, sweat boxer, hat racker, ya mom, my dear. And that's what I learned in the school. Hey, hey, chest protector. With my hand on my breast, I ask what this is. This is a chest protector, ya mom, my dear. Chest protector, rubbernecker, food chopper, nose soup strainer, nose blower, eye blinker, sweat boxer, hat racker, ya mom, my dear. And that's what I learned in the school. Hey, hey! Did we do chest protector? Okay, bread basket. With my hand on my chest, I ask, what is this here? This is a bread basket, ya mom, my dear. Bread basket, chest protector, rubbernecker, food chopper, soup strainer, nose blower, eye blinker, sweat boxer, hat racker, ya mom, my dear. And that's what I learned in the school. Hey, hey! We got the food. Bread basket, didn't we? Okay, the next is baby bouncer with my chest. I ask, what is this here? This is a baby bouncer, ya mom, my dear. Baby bouncer, food rubbernecker, food chopper, soup strainer, nose blower, eye blinker, sweat boxer, hat racker, ya mom, my dear. And that's what I learned in the school. Oh, I love them hays. Now the next one is the best one, the wife kicker. With my hand on my chest, I ask, what is this here? This is a wife kicker, ya mom, my dear. Wife kicker, food chopper, rubbernecker, food chopper, soup strainer, nose blower, eye blinker, sweat boxer, hat racker, ya mom, my dear. And that's what I learned in the school. Hey, hey! Now I'm going to tell you all something nobody else has told you yet. Know what that is? What'd you say? Yeah, it's a clicker. Now, when the Allies landed on Normandy, it was dark, it was foggy, and you couldn't tell who was who. And if you heard a little noise, you'd click. And if you didn't hear right back, you lowered your gun down and started shooting because you knew it was a German. Germans didn't know anything about a clicker. Now you've learned something about the invasion. Hope you learned a good lesson. But one,
We gotta go.
where?
The class is over.
I'm not through yet.
All right, one more minute.
One more minute. Boy, she's timing me close. Now I forgot what I was going to say. I'm sorry, my forgetful is really improving today. I'll have to drop that one.
Save it for the next class.
Save it for the next. We got another class.
Yep.
Oh boy.
All right, so this is your veteran. So you guys support him well.
Thank you.